I still remember the exact second it happened, not because it was loud, but because the room went quiet in a way that only humiliation can create. I reached out my hand, smiled the way you're taught to smile in rooms like that. Calm, professional, non-threatening. And the man standing in front of me looked at my hand like it was something he needed to avoid. He didn't just ignore it. He stepped back. Then he said it clear as day, I don't shake hands with staff. Not quietly, not by accident. He wanted people to hear it, and they did. That was the night I realized something most people never do until it's too late. Power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it walks in wearing a plain sweater, takes the insult, and leaves quietly already knowing how the story ends. But let me back up because none of this makes sense without context. My name is Naomi Carter. I grew up in North Carolina, raised by a single mother who worked double shifts as a hospital clerk and still found the energy to tell me every night that I belonged anywhere my feet could carry me. We didn't have money, but we had pride, and that pride came with a warning. People will decide who you are before you open your mouth. Let them. That's information. Fast forward 30 years. I run a private investment firm most people haven't heard of on purpose. We specialize in acquiring undervalued companies with leadership problems, the kind that look strong on paper but rot quietly from the inside. I didn't build my career by being loud. I built it by watching, waiting, and letting people underestimate me long enough to expose themselves. The man who refused to shake my hand that night was named Grant Holloway, CEO of a tech logistics company called Meridian Systems. Publicly, he was praised as a visionary. Privately, he was a walking lawsuit with better PR. My firm had been studying Meridian for almost 3 years, tracing turnover patterns, buried settlements, sudden exits that never made the press. By the time I walked into that charity investor reception, the deal was already done. He just didn't know it yet. I didn't come dressed like an executive because I wasn't there to impress anyone. I wore a simple gray sweater, flat shoes, my mother's old watch, the one she wore through 25 years of night shifts. That watch reminded me who I was before anyone tried to tell me who I wasn't. The event itself was exactly what you'd expect. Crystal lights, forced laughter, men congratulating each other for surviving another quarter without consequences. I watched Grant work the room for a while. He shook hands enthusiastically with white investors, laughed too loudly at jokes that weren't funny, barely acknowledged women unless they were donors. When a server accidentally brushed his sleeve, he reacted like he'd been personally insulted. That told me everything I needed to know. Still, I gave him a chance. I walked up, introduced myself, complimented Meridian's logistics software, mentioned potential collaboration. That's when he scanned me head to toe, decided I wasn't worth his time, and said the line that would eventually cost him everything. I don't shake hands with staff. People laughed. Some looked away. No one intervened. Security showed up before I could even respond, like they'd been waiting for an excuse. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just walked out with my dignity intact because sometimes silence is the loudest move you can make. What Grant didn't see was the intern in the corner filming the entire exchange, his hands shaking, his future suddenly colliding with his conscience. The next morning at exactly 9:00 a.m., my firm finalized the acquisition. 56% controlling interest. Majority ownership. Full voting power. The news broke quietly at first, then all at once. Financial alerts, internal panic. Emergency board meeting. Grant arrived at headquarters, confidence still riding the ego high from the night before. He was stopped at the elevator by his assistant, who looked like she'd just seen a ghost. He laughed when she told him someone had taken control overnight. Men like Grant always laugh right before reality hits. When he walked into the boardroom, every seat was filled. The air was heavy, and at the head of the table in his chair was me. Same sweater, same watch, same woman he had dismissed as invisible less than 12 hours earlier. I watched his face change in real-time confusion, anger, fear, as the truth landed. I introduced myself properly, this time explained the acquisition, slid the documents across the table. He didn't interrupt. He couldn't. The room had already shifted, and then the video went live. The intern posted it mid-meeting. Within minutes, it spread faster than anyone expected. By lunch, millions had seen it. By evening, Meridian's stock was sliding and employees were emailing my office with stories they'd been too afraid to tell before. That's when the real picture emerged. Years of internal complaints quietly settled. Non-disclosure agreements stapled over trauma. Diversity numbers inflated for investors. HR emails instructing staff to minimize documentation. It wasn't one bad moment. It was a system designed to protect one man at the expense of dozens of others. That night, the board reconvened. Cameras present, lawyers watching, evidence displayed. I played the video again, not for drama, but for clarity. I asked Grant one question calmly, directly. "In all these years, did you ever apologize?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. So I called for a vote. One by one, the board voted to remove him. Even the people who had protected him for years finally chose survival over loyalty. When it was over, Grant stood there stunned, a man who had never imagined a world where his behavior had consequences. I walked over to him and told him the truth. "You thought I didn't belong because you couldn't imagine someone like me having power without announcing it. That mistake is yours to carry." I extended my hand. He hesitated, then I pulled it back. "Actually, I said you haven't earned it." Security escorted him out through the front entrance cameras, rolling the same way I had been escorted out the night before. Fairness doesn't always look gentle. The aftermath was immediate. Federal investigations, public apologies that rang hollow, Meridian restructured under new leadership. Victims were released from their NDAs. Settlements followed. The company survived, but the myth of Grant Holloway didn't. The intern who filmed the video works with us now. Turns out integrity under pressure is rarer than any degree. Sometimes people ask me if I planned it all, if the outfit was a setup, if the humiliation was intentional. The truth is simpler. I gave him every opportunity to treat me like a human being. He chose not to. Everything that followed was just math. So here's my question for you. Was this justice or was it revenge? Was it fair to let him destroy himself, or should someone have stopped him sooner? How many times have you watched someone be underestimated, dismissed, or silenced and said nothing? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of someone else's arrogance, share this story with the person who needs the reminder. Power doesn't always look powerful, and karma never forgets.